Blog Talk Radio.
And we're going to have to come to the grips with the fact that they told us exactly what they were going to do. They wrote a document called the Project for a New American Center.
Don't ever say I didn't warn you. That's about all one can do. Anything these creatures tell, the opposite is probably true. But every day, their grip is getting stronger. We must not prune the tree of evil any longer. Every day, the tyrant's getting closer. Will you sit back and watch, or do what you're supposed to?
What can I get with 2.3 trillion? When does a citizen become a civilian? When did the heroes morph into the villains? How can two planes powderize three buildings? These are questions that could get you murked, politically, socially, physically, put into the dirt. Many swear that there's some kind of conflict of interest within. The conflict depends upon what you're interested in. You can chant 9/11 was an inside job all day until you say the Mossad and pay closer attention to Flight 175 and the odd cylindrical pod beneath the fuselage. Then it's 2 + 2 level addition after you factor in the flight termination system. Then flash back to the cash the good rabbi stole, September 10th style, right down the rabbit hole.
What can I get with 2.3?
You can get unlimited corporate news.
What can I get with 2.3?
You can have any mercenaries you choose.
What can I get with 2.3 trillion?
You can steal a couple million souls.
What can I get with 2.3
You can get everything under control. The missile they hit the Pentagon with was not an act of randomness. It murdered accountants, bookkeepers, and budget analysts. That side of the building was retrofitted prior to this to withstand bomb blast, the nickname the catches mixed. If that don't give you some kind of clue why they blew the mortar, maybe you should take some medication for your new disorder. If buildings are burning, don't ever trust a news reporter with 267 stories of gruesome slaughter. Don't ever mention Dov Zakim and trillion stolen, much less missile-equipped Boeings, even remote controlling. With System Planning Corporation International, the folks that see if you got some buildings you'd like to crash into. But that's impossible without the proper capital. That's why I'm asking you what you would do with unimaginable wealth. So much money you can't delve in it. Enough to buy 10 presidents and 12 senates.
What can I get with 2.3
You can get unlimited corporate news. That's right.
What can I get with 2.3
You can have any mercenaries you choose.
all night? What can I get with 2.3
You can steal a couple million souls. Indeed.
What can I get with 2.3
You can get everything under control. Now that's greed.
What can I get? What can I get with 2.3 trillion? What can I get? What can I get with 2.3 trillion? What can I get with 2.3 trillion? What can I get?
You know, it took me about a year to start hating the 9/11 victims' families. It took me about a year. And I had such compassion for them, and I really, I wanted to help them.
That's about a millionth of what you can get with 2.3 trillion. Some clown named Glenn Beck fucking with a Pentagon talking point of how he hates the 9/11 victims' families. But that didn't roll over too well, did it, Glenn? They're well aware they can no longer create a consensus as effectively as they used to. So they parade some other clown on the other side of the spectrum named Geraldo to tacitly give 9/11 truth a 6-minute segment semblance of credence, as if we didn't have that 9 years ago, dummy. The system is designed to make you think anything is funny. Pretty soon you won't be able to buy anything with your monopoly money, dummy.
What can I get with 2.3 trillion? 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 2.3 trillion.
if you are going to control any population for any length of time, you must have some measure of consent. It's exceedingly difficult to see how pure terrorism can function indefinitely. It can function for a fairly long time, but I think sooner or later you have to bring in an element of persuasion, an element of getting people to consent to what is happening to them.
The Vera chip, it's about the size of a grain of rice.
Each chip contains a unique 16-digit number that, when scanned, connects doctors to an internet database that retrieves medical records instantly. It was originally used for tracking lost pets, but the FDA approved Vera chip implants in humans.
This is NWO Hosts Radio presents Why You're Sleeping for 5/8/2013. I'm your host, Brandon Council. I'm joined in the studio with Dennis Ford, along with Anthony Jacob Woolston, with co-host Ian Revolution, with a very special guest and a very special contributor to not only what we do as far as artistic work, those who are in that revolution movement, very artistically done throughout T-shirts and other art memes and so on and so forth. We have Mike Puzo with us. Contributes to NWO Radio as well as Guerrilla Radio. So I'd like to bring everybody in and have Mike and Ian say what's up, as well as Dennis. So what's up, guys?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thank you, Brandon, for doing this show. I'm kind of going to hang back. I just want to kind of listen tonight. I appreciate everybody's input tonight, and you already know how I feel about some of these topics, Brandon.
I appreciate you guys helping out with the studio, and we got a lot of listeners tonight too. So I appreciate everybody that's out there listening. This show that we're gonna do, this has been in the works for a really long time, and this show is going to basically set us apart from all the other topics.
Garbage.
No other. There's topics out there, and and it's very, our audience is, our listeners are very, very, very perspective on the things that they observe, and I've been asked to just kind of investigate, look into certain things, maybe like foreign secret societies and how people in other countries perceive us, and that got me really thinking. And as a matter of fact, the introduction song there is by Payday Monsanto, Under Control.
Right.
And he talks about how the Mossad may had something to do with 9/11, that being an inside job. That that really kind of took the spectrum for me to people who lived through those times, from past to present. Other people's stories, basically, throughout history and time, besides those that have been told to us in our history books, which we will discuss, and Mike will actually.
Yeah, much respect, Brandon. Please get into that. I want to give you, everything.
Yeah.
I want to give you open mic night tonight. I'm going to hang back. You do have a bunch of people on the line with you. If you can get into that and talk to some of these people,
Yeah. Yeah, Mike, what's up, man? How you doing, brother?
Yo, what's going on? Good. Everything's
Not much,
good.
man. We got Ian, too. Ian
yeah,
definitely... you know what, Ian, and it's funny because, I was talking to Ian earlier, man, and, there's a lot of conversations that Ian and I have that are very similar to that of Mike and I, and it's very comforting to know that there are other people out there, besides, those that we admire in the artistic form of music, such, the information that, Payday puts out there, and Mike, you as well, with your memes and Very informative. Even the HR 3200 implantable Schedule 4 chip. It's it's insane.
Yeah, that was a collaboration.
What's that?
It definitely was a collaboration with you and I, and it just comes about, man. You know what I'm saying? We just kick ideas off with each other, and that's what this is about, really. Just passing down information and expanding people's perception of what's really going on out here.
Yeah, I really like to thank you and Ia as well for opening my eyes to just other things that are out there, things that other like Alex Jones and other people out there that have these radio shows, and they have the opportunity to inform people on other things in the Freemason societies and the Illuminati, the Skull and Bones. Let's get into things like the Grand Mufti, Gaddafi's father, the Mossad, the Mujahideen, Taliban, Russian insurgencies, all these things that they won't discuss but have been publicly given to us. And especially what grabbed my interest, Mike, is the numerology that you have for the events, so the exercises and drills. We've had 67 drills, I believe, within the last 12 years. Three out of those 67 drills we'll discuss tonight on the show. 9/11, Boston Marathon, April 15th, and Waco, which was the following day on the 17th, I believe.
Right. Exactly. If you want, I could just give a quick rundown, and then I could elaborate, and then if you guys want to chime in, it's up to you.
Yeah, if you definitely want to share that, go ahead. Because it was odd because a lot of that led into other things too that we were talking about that I'd like to share with our listeners, such as when we were talking about the Matrix movie there, man, that was that was something else, man. That was Mike
that
and
was
I
all you
were
right there.
talking. Yeah, well, you actually, Mike brought it up. He was saying that there was a protocol of the elders to Zion, and you were talking about how it popped up as a cover story. It was a fake or a hoax. You're saying, hey, if you read it, it seems like the shit is the protocols to Zion is still happening. And I was like, when you mentioned that, the Zion thing made me think of the Matrix when they went to the place of Zion and had that orgy. I'm sitting there thinking, what a way to produce great pre-predictive programming method, imprisonment inside of individualism, the dancing, and such not a metaphor with Trinity and Neo having sex, and to say everybody else is acting and do what they will, acting what they would figure independently. But if you're the last race and the last chosen race at that, reproducing is not a concern. So if those people are the last and reproducing is not concerned, it shows that people a lot in their subconscious is reading as it follows: the end of the world happens and people will do what they will. They think that it's freedom, and it's not. It's just kind of an illusion. It's given to them, in other words.
Yeah.
That spectrum.
Yeah,
as what some of the numerology explains in the events. If you'd like to go over that, yeah, definitely. If you have that next to you, please go over that with us.
Yeah, definitely the story about the Matrix, how that came up was, I believe the protocols of the Elders of Zion, that was in the Bolshevik Revolution. It was to infiltrate and put puppets up into the government. And the funny thing is that we're seeing that today by basically the same people that have perpetrated these crimes and infiltrated governments. And it's just astonishing. Right. I can understand why people are like, you don't believe in this. And, you know, if you really do the research and you read their documents and you read the history and you read what has been going on, I mean, this is not just like a 10-year deal since 9/11. I mean, this goes back. You know, we got into theosophy, we got into all type. Somebody's knocking on the door. Excuse me. I got interrupted.
I'm sorry, who's that?
Yeah, I don't know, I got sidetracked a minute. Somebody's knocking at my door. I apologize.
Mike got a visit from the FBI.
Wow, dude.
You better go answer.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
but,
what a way to make a brain fire happen. Yeah, what were you saying there?
Yeah.
It does go back, you know, I believe you were saying, you know, I hope everything's all right over there. If not, yeah, it does, you know, you're right, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. It takes hundreds and hundreds of years to go over, and, you know, history repeats itself because people refuse to do anything about it. And 70 BC, false flag, you know, Marcus Licinius Gracchus, who helped back Caesar against Cicero. The Revolutionary War, the British Crown backs not only the British, but the French and the Americans as well, you know, and follow the money. If Brian was on, you know, he'd be able to say the same thing, man. Hey, all you got to do is, once you follow that money, you end up seeing what's what. And we were talking about how you know, the Bushes were Nazi sympathizers, and basically how, you know, through World War II, how, you know, things besides the war machine and the Industrial Revolution, Halliburton and stuff like that was at its highest. You know, during that time, in the dusty birth of Israel and Jerusalem, and the like you were saying, the pawns in our government that are placed there by these foreign governments. So, like Ariel Sharon said, you know, I own Congress. I mean, how much scarier can you get? I mean,
exactly. You got the round table groups. I mean, the list goes on, and people just don't want to either open their eyes or they're not concerned with it. But at least that's why, you know, at least there's programs like this, you know, alternative to the alternative media. I think that's, you know, there's a lost voice in people like ourselves, you know, that are looking for something different. Because, you know, you have the Alex Joneses of the world, and I don't mean to bring him up, but, you know, he made it look real bad when he went on to the Piers Morgan show. You know, he made us.
I agree.
I don't know if it was totally.
I agree. I completely agree. You know, that right there, what you just said is proof of controlled opposition. I believe Ian was going to chime in there too, but. Controlled opposition. But go ahead, Ian. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. Alex Jones is, you know, he's one of the guys that, you know, I started looking into when I first got into this type of information and subjects. And, of course, Alex Jones is, you know, helped wake a lot of people up, but people that dig a little deeper end up usually not listening to it for the same once they start looking at a few things that are kind of suspicious, like
now
isn't
his media? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I go ahead. My bad. I thought you were saying.
Oh yeah, no, I was just also going to say one of the other things that was
faded out for a second, so it was. But were you the one telling me that his wife? You know, his wife is Jewish or whatever, and she's the one who owns like his production company and stuff. So basically, it's put out by, you know, Jewish media again. Zionist control.
Yeah, and then a lot of his sponsors and stuff like that. But one of the most suspicious things to me, and the more I looked at it, was how we got into the Bohemian Grove was really suspicious to me. I mean, it was a cool video, but there was a lot of very suspicious stuff about the whole video altogether, and a lot of questions unanswered about it all. So, I mean, I'll admit I still listen to him sometimes. I mean, he is entertaining, and sometimes he does put out some good, stories, but at the same time, you got to look at a lot of different angles and try to come up with the truth, to the best as you can.
Yeah,
let me.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to add something to what Mike was saying, but I'm sorry, Puzo was saying. Let's talk about these other people, man. Let's talk about Mark Dice. You see what Mark Dice did, right? He talked about Alex Jones for a year and a half, talking about how you're drinking Kool-Aid. Look where Mark Dice is right now, back at InfoWars. So,
but making appearances on Fox News and stuff like that, just like Alex.
He says the Boston bombing. You're crazy to think there's any kind of conspiracy with the Boston. Meanwhile, George W. Bush is on TV, and he almost slipped up and told the nation it was a conspiracy, government-controlled conspiracy.
Yep.
It's sad, man.
The underground within the underground. That's a very great compliment. I like that. Just as we rewrite history, as one of our last. I believe Austin was talking to live on air last time in our chat room there. But Mike, would you like to get on that topic of the we like to say right out in the open that these things happen, and people whom are affected by this in any way, psychological or other, and definitely, especially the people whom are observing this through, what they would call first-hand media type thing.
The lamestream media, Brandon. The CNN garbage that we keep getting fed.
Yes. Yeah. We, our hearts go out to those people who are affected by this, but one more facts come to mind. Again, they need to be analyzed, and then everything else needs to be brought back up, and we need to discuss that. So there is following those events, like we were saying, that 9/11 was basically an exercise that was produced to JFK, and he wouldn't go through with it. So that's where you had his invasions and the events. Would you like to elaborate basically your perspective on that, Mike?
I just would like to preface it with saying that this is not my area of expertise. I just was looking for facts, like the rest of us here, and I started to dig deeper into names and dates and the time and everything, and it just started it just started. I got like 10 pages worth of notes for about 2-3 days worth of research, and so
going down that rabbit hole.
I'll just do the real. What happened?
Go ahead.
All right. I'll just do a really quick.
Give us a rundown of it. It's numerology sequences.
Yeah. So and then there's obviously more with like zodiacs and astrology, but like I said, I'm not an expert in any of this. I just was digging for the truth, and this is just my interpretation of it. And I believe that there is some fabric of truth, if not to my interpretation of what is probably the closest that I can get to what's really going on. So anyway, so the Boston bombing was April 15th, 2013. So April is the 4th month. 5 + 1 is 6. and 2013 is 6. So you add 4 plus 6 plus 6, that's 16. Then the next one I did was the first bomb was 249. That equals 15. I did the first bomb, I call it a long form. I did it. It's 249 with 43 seconds. That's 22. You add that up, all those up, that's 22. And then the yards apart from each blast was 210 yards. So you add 2 plus 1, that's 3. And then there's 13 seconds in between each one. So the 16, to me, like I said, the 16 represents the coming of age. And then what I did was, with the first bomb, 249, like I said, I added that up. That was 15. So then I looked. I went to Wikipedia, numerology sites, and 15 on the periodic table is phosphorus. So then when you break that down more, that's the light bearer, and the light bearer is...
Yeah, hey, I was going to add something, Mike, real quick. If we talk about the number 13 and Freemasonry, 13 and 7, there's a bunch of numbers. 9/11.
15, though, right?
Both numbers,
15,
9.
though, right?
Yeah, go ahead. But
yeah, well, 9/11, I think, I'm not sure, but in some interpretations, like number 10 is, it's like they skipped...
yeah, it's God. Number 10 is God, and 11 is duality, or the yin and the yang blending, and 9 is like a new age coming in. This is why they cut people's heads off, because I think it's the 9th degree of Freemasonry. Yeah, it's some kind of crazy shit where they cut people's heads off.
Now, wasn't it was Taurus, and but what were you were saying that
that's like with the well, this all started for me with the if you could remember, the older brother, they said that some dude was training him, or was like a religious advisor. His name was Misha. I don't know if maybe the listeners.
Yeah.
But if you do it, if you research, anyway, that story was a bust. You know what I mean? Because some news affiliate actually found this dude and said, he rejected the story. So whether you want to believe him or not, but that's how this started. And then, I can get into that after, but so I'll just do, like I said, the date, the first bomb. Like I said, 15, phosphorus, the periodic table, the light bearer, which is Lucifer.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you do the first bomb. What happened?
Hey, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So the first bomb. Well, what I did first was I did the first bomb was 2 minutes and 49 seconds, and that's just how this came to me. And then I got the seconds, so I'm just doing it as it came. So anyway, so the first bomb with the seconds, if you add it up, what is that? 249.43. So that equals 22. 22 is the master builder number. That's like a Masonic type thing,
Yeah, 32, 33, 23. Oh, yeah.
So that's a master builder number, and then
master number.
Now you see, what's amazing to me is the phosphorus. How that equates to the chemical phosphorus, because basically you can make it's non-lethal. Phosphorus grenades are non-lethal. It's basically what they use. You could use phosphorus in a shock banging grenade and make it look like blood has rained down from the heavens. All over the place. So that's very interesting how that there are certain things in there that definitely do play out to certain anomalies within that say, hey, this was not only a terror training exercise that went live, but it's also something that there's so much that is predicated on, so much.
Right.
we'll post. Sometimes it's easier to post in the event page, but there's something.
I can definitely.
Post it on the event page. Just a little.
I'll make an image, or we can do something. I wanted to extend a what do you call it, to anyone, whether either it's the host or the listeners, anyone that can make videos or YouTube videos. I actually wanted to make this a video, and I wasn't going to come out with this until I made a video. I just didn't have time to get into it. So if anybody, I'm serious.
I like it. I like it, and thank you, and thank you for the artwork. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, no question. It's just putting all hands. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. You know what I mean? You might have a particular piece of information or a particular talent, and you might not think that it's anything, but, if you pass the information along, if we all build together with it, something can come out of it. So it's all about information,
sure.
and at least until we still have this internet, and, they're coming after that with the taxes, and it's definitely going to become, they're definitely going to put more of a stranglehold on it, but, we control the info right now. So
that's right.
They're definitely losing that word. They're losing that angle. And I wanted to also talk about Benghazi because that was very important today, what happened and how the media. But let me just get the other two out, and then we can come back to this, or
if you need would you need a second to gather your notes, or did you all set to go, or?
No, I'm good. I'm good with this part. So, should I just start it again? I don't know if it would be easier.
Is it the numerology for the Benghazi one, or are you just saying
no,
the discussion of it?
This is just Boston. I just thought it was very important to bring up Benghazi today because what's going on there.
Absolutely.
And, people are watching the fucking Jody Arias case, excuse my French, but they don't want to know what's going on with their country. It's just, it gets annoying. It really does, because they're falling into the trap of what's going on here. And, and this is what it's about. This is what this show is about. It's that they don't dictate anything anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's about us taking control of our future and the future generations, and that's just what it's about. I'm not here to get try to get any notoriety out of this. I'm doing this for the benefit of all of us here. I talked to Brandon before. I know that's what Dennis is about too, and everybody in this network. You know what I mean? And so I hope that hopefully people can, not step up to the plate, but just do your part, and we should be all right in this.
Right.
So
right.
Definitely. That's just what it's about at the end of the day. They're coming for our throats, and, we just got to keep exposing them because they're putting a stranglehold on the whole system. It's caving in, and, people are just going about their day like nothing's happening. So, I get really worked up. I get, you know what I mean? It's just, it's ridiculous. But I believe that we, like I said, what you guys are doing on NWO Truth Radio and this program, like you guys said, I've only came into this about a couple months ago with the network and like the program and getting in with you guys, but I think you guys have been around for at least a year or so, and I think you guys have grown. So, if who knows what a year from now will do. So
that is true.
Exactly.
I don't want one of my first shows was with Brandon Council. I had a special guest, Brandon, and ever since then, it'll be a year in, I don't know, June or July, one of those months. Yeah, it'll be a year.
Yeah, I don't want to hog up all the time, but it's just like, man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nah, good Lord, because it's imperative. Like, there's and that's another thing. There's so many shows that we have done in the past that, are still, so they're so validated to this day. And, as people were saying, you're trying to rewrite history, or you are rewriting history. Good. I'm so glad that we are, because, it's, who wrote history in the first place? A bunch of, fat white people who decided to sit together and decide, what they will tell and what they won't tell, and what we have, as, investigative type, journalists or reporters really have to get in there and, sign for those Freedom of Information Acts that we've also desperately have done before in the past. And it's a process, and it's a workout, and it's exhausting, and it's all for the better. It really is.
Yeah, we're all in the same team.
You can't just sit there and say that you did nothing. And this is where people who do the marches, who do the activism, they really need to understand that we have, like, for instance, say, more than half of the country, okay? If more than half of the country, not even marched to Washington, but if not even more than half the country took it upon their community, their town, their zone, just their responsibility to mandate that the sheriffs just deny all federal mandates, such as federal funding and stuff like that. It's something that the reason why I'm saying this is because our forefathers had left it in the Constitution or a flag that we have the right to take, when the Republic falls, to take it back, and we can do so legally and lawfully. It's just a matter of having enough people whom are willing to take the responsibility to do so. It's almost like, in the movie The Valkyrie, not to get kind of like Hollywood and stuff on it, but, in the movie The Valkyrie, it was just so impossible to go against that one person. To take that one person out, just because it was built on so much deception and so much lies. I think we could relate that to kind of what we have today in office of our totalitarian democracy and presidency, Islamic fundamentalists. We had the very thing that we are allegedly the Americans are supposed to hate. Allegedly, the Americans who talk about Jews and Zionists and people who even say those type of words are anti-Semitic and all this other stuff, and they do this to single people out, and it's just it's really disgusting how our government kind of lays on its back, and we're kind of a whore for whatever type of country will allow us to rape and pillage, economic terrorism, environmental terrorism, between Monsanto, Walmart, and Bill Gates' vaccine program, we do a hefty job on the eugenics. And like Mike was saying, it's not something that's overnight. It's something that takes years and years and years and years to do, hundreds of years to accomplish. So, you figure maybe, let's foresay, in 1777, the Freemason Society, the four corners of the White House, maybe they kind of our forefathers, they made the inception of this country, and then, maybe 1778, a couple years later, whatnot, these other people come in and, let's say that they're the Illuminati, and you can relate this later on to kind of like gang politics or mob mentality politics, but they see these other people who have this structure, this political control over the people, like cattle, farmers whom own people, and they see that they have this control over them, especially back, in the days of actual slavery, and they say, well, how can we get involved with that? And that's why to this day we will always be that type of we've become that country where our people are literally sold on the stock market as stock and trade, and the corporations are so big they outweigh the person's needs to the point where they are the person's needs. People are almost inept without their Walmart or without their McDonald's. You know what I mean? It's a vicious circle. It really is. But there's plenty of things that we can go into that. But if anybody would like to elaborate, please feel free.
No, I was going to say we do have a caller too, Brandon. We have Cole on the line, and I know he probably has something to say.
Bring Cole on in, man, because there's some other things that we're definitely going to go over. Yeah, bring him on in, man.
Yeah, he's been on hold for a while, so I want to give him opportunity to add anything.
Oh, no doubt.
There you go, Cole. You're live. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I want to say hi to Mike. I think this is the first time we've actually spoke, and I was excited to talk tonight. Big fan
good to hear from you, bro. It's real good to know that we got like-minded people out there.
Right. I was just speaking earlier to a friend I found locally here in my hometown from a bumper sticker he had on his car, the "Don't Tread on Me" bumper sticker, and left a note on his car, and ended up texting me later that day, and we've been chatting back and forth, and seems like a really good guy, and sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Thanks for having me on the show, and I'm just excited to hear what else you had to say tonight, Mike.
We appreciate you listening and being a part of what we do. Every person who listens is a big part of what we do because they're able to be like, hey, check this out, and as I said, we're going to offer much more information, and again, Mike does so much for a lot of stations, man, a lot of different people, a lot of contributors, man. We really appreciate that. It is definitely something.
Right.
I know Cole's got a lot of interference there on his live.
Is it? Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's Cole's line. He's got a little bit of people making popcorn in the background.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Is it better now?
That's great, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate him calling in, man, because he supports what we do here, and other stuff that's going on, other projects, and I definitely would like to expand with everybody. This is just like I told Brandon and Dennis, thank you for the platform, and this could just be something that can jump into other ventures, and the sky's the limit. So I'm very very appreciative just to be on the show, honestly, and be a part of something that means something today, and not
Wow, thank you for saying that, Mike. I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Yeah. Real.
Definitely. And you know what? We got so much other stuff to cover too. I know Ian and Mike. We're just gonna jump right in there. Actually, Ian and Mike. I know you're both very well, versed on basically the other topics of our show was gonna be like we were talking about hey, who wrote history, that type of thing. We're going to go with the Helena Blavatsky and S. Arthur, who wrote Lucius Trust on that one. Also, we're going to go with controlled opposition, such as people like the Zeta Geist producer, Peter Joseph. They all ultimately, at the end of the Zeta Geist, it's all about the one world unity. No doubt they have great info about the Fed, but they do have a lot of doublespeak. And again, he's, Zionist-owned, controlled by, a Jewish station. And then we have Ernest Zundel, who produced a book called, I believe it's called, he produced a couple books. One was called Did 6 Million Really Die? And just for writing this book, he was sent to prison. And it's really, really sad how out of this one book that Ernest Zundel did, again, anybody can look up this information. His name is Ernest Zundel, and he was the world's most famous political prisoner, released from Germany, a German prison, 7 years of illegal incarceration for questioning Zionist version of the Holocaust. Okay, and Zundel's crime, he reprinted this explosive and convincing book that Zionism bans from the public in Jerusalem and Israel. It's called The 6 Million Really Die, and stated on the fact of stuff like Zyklon B, which is an insecticide used to kill lice in the Auschwitz delousing chambers, all right, which caused distinct blue staining on the walls. All right, this is the same poison that Zionists claim were used to exterminate millions of Jews in the notorious gas chambers. In 1999, Dr. Piper, actually top Auschwitz museum official, the Institute of Forensic Research in Carlo, scientifically tested the walls of the gas chamber and discovered that no staining and zero residue of anything toxic, even to that data, was there. So this caused a big investigation. Some of the other things I'd like to share with everybody, with the other Zyklon B, is a bug spray used by World War II German work camps, and basically it would leave a blue stain on the wall. And in the Auschwitz camps and whatnot, they're not there. Ironically, the Zyklon B is produced by none other than Monsanto at the time, and these companies go back hundreds of years, and it's not the Holocaust that we're exactly trying to not even downgrade, but it's not something that we're trying to. It's the numbers and certain things have been overestimated. Nobody talks about the, let me see, George Takei and Pat Masano, I forget his name there, the guy from Karate Kid. They grew up in concentration camps during World War II in America. And, that's not to say that not only America hosted concentration camps for people who looked of Japanese or Native American descent or even Italian, but hidden from history is the Canadian Holocaust. Residential schools between 1820 and 1969, government-sponsored United Catholic Church boarding schools educated quote-unquote savage Indian and Eskimo children in Christianity. 10 months of the year, Native children were taken away from their families and cultures, severely punished, if caught speaking their own indigenous language. This is why a lot of Native speaking language, indigenous, especially in my neck of the woods, are, very, maybe 8 of them speak the language throughout, the whole clan, but never allowed to, read or talk in their native heritage or deeply scarring these children for life. Now revealed that the pedophile rings, torture, sterilization, and experiments at the hands of nuns and priests designed for genocide. These residential schools had a 50% death rate. Armed with Bible verses, these churches mass murdered natives who refused to, and Eskimos who had refused to convert, and they stole their land. Over the years, millions died of the international spread of just disease and depression and whatnot. So these are all other Holocausts. Another thing that came out of World War II was the Holocaust that the Palestinians suffer. The Palestinian Holocaust goes on to this day, and it's something that people absolutely refuse to speak about. They refuse to talk about it. So
genocide.
These are just a few things for people to look up. It's just absolutely amazing to me because even when you bring in scientific things such as Trebleke and Beztek, which is Holocaust historians claim, I think it's Trebleke, I can't really say it right, it's Treblinka. It was a death camp where 870,000 Jews were put to death in gas chambers and then buried in mass graves. In 1999, Richard Krieg, again, you guys can look this up, anybody listening, Richard Krieg, a qualified electronics engineer, carried out a high-tech exam of the soil in which these mass graves were allegedly buried, as death records had showed. Okay, ground-penetrating radar can detect very minute Earth disturbances and small objects from 30 meters down in the ground. After 3 weeks, the team found no ground has ever been disturbed, and core sample analysis revealed no ash. The result obtained by the researchers show with 100% certainty that mass graves never existed in these areas at all. Zionist manipulated creation of Israel was largely based on these alleged deaths and several million more, which supposedly occurred at Auschwitz, which gave motivation to the Mossad to be born and be allowed to shed blood anywhere that they believe that Jewish blood has been shed. But most importantly, out of all of this, as I'm talking about this, it seems to me as almost one big eugenic process came together all at once, because we always talk about the scientific, the world scientific community, how they had their conference, right before, World War II was incited in Warsaw and Poland, how the German scientists brought back eugenics or sterilization and furthermore. So as we're doing that, continuing that in the South, allegedly somebody else is doing this in another country in numerous numbers instead of just as we do mention the slow kill method. And the same thing with every country on the face of the earth was doing some sort of trying to extermination, because if the numbers are what they say they are and they are that high, then it was a world genocide. That's basically what it was.
That we give a lot of information there. If you really look at Freemasonry, it's based on the Kabbalah, which is Jewish. And
I got a question. I got a question for Brandon and for Mike. But before, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I hear a lot of people say that it all goes back to Freemasonry. But also, hear a lot of people say that it's all about the Zionist movement. If you guys could help to illustrate to a guy like me exactly how the two interlock. What does Freemasonry and Zionists have to do with each other? How do they mingle?
Well, my understanding is that Freemasonry is just one facet of a bigger, like they say, the pyramid
spectrum.
And Zionist is really just an ideology.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to go back to World War II, and then maybe I can help him out with the question. But you look after World War II, and basically it seems to me that what happened is that right after that they created a state for Israel. Now the UN is part of this whole big thing as well. You got UN, and Freemasonry is not necessarily evil, but there's the top layer of Freemasonry is the ruling class of the Freemasons. Not necessarily the bottom feeder Freemasons know really what's going on, and that's compartmentalism within everything. And so there's many things that go into this, and you know, we're all learning to this day, and by no means do I know everything, but you know, that's why it's good to have a conversation like this, and you know.
Now, you know, Mike, you said something, you know, very important that after World War II, and this kind of coincides with the question too, kind of, well, not so much as Freemason, but and Zionist, but kind of Zionist and Jerusalem, and you know, it's currently Israel's basic laws refer to Jerusalem as the country's undivided capital. All right, the international community has rejected the latter annexation as illegal and treats East Jerusalem as Palestinian territory held by Israel under military occupation. Now, imagine how you would feel if, you know what I mean, that was you. And, you know, if you were approached by, you know, Israeli government, Jerusalem landowners, and you're a Palestinian, and like, you know, like I said, the East Jerusalem, you know, they treat the Palestinian territory that's held by Israel under military occupation. And if they're trying to buy your land, kind of like Monsanto in like California and the rest of the United States, they're trying to buy your land and you're not cooperating, they'll make methods to move on and, you know, maybe offer your neighbor a little bit more. But here's what I'm saying, though, is that in that country, you know, that's treason. However, to move on, all branches of the Israeli government are located actually in Jerusalem, including the Knesset, which is Israel's parliament, and the residences of the prime minister and president of the Supreme Court of Jerusalem. Basically, that was a creation of that, and the Zionist movement has always been, just like, you know, Freemason, we're going to use this as an example, you know, the Freemason society and structure as being a quote-unquote secret society, and the quote-unquote common knowledge of today's society is of our understanding and interpretation of what our secret societies are. Secret societies in other nations are obviously not going to be the same as ours, nor, you know, even kind of close. So, you know, we have to understand that there are other secret societies, Zionists and the Mossad. Even though the Mossad is Israeli intelligence agency, they also have, if you look at their list of goals, one of their list of goals is basically anywhere that Jewish blood is shed, excuse me, anywhere Jewish blood is shed, that they are to basically avenge that fallen Jew at any cost. And this is, you know, it's, I don't know, it's kind of mind-boggling to me, excuse me, if you, especially if you've seen, if you understand, like, the Munich bombings and what happened there in Germany during the Olympics. It's just it's a play off of their government, just like you know, what we have now, totalitarian democracy and corporation rule as the populace is a play off of our government. In reality, our government is ran by an Islamic fundamentalist, which we tell our people we are overseas fighting these Islamic fundamentalists and these jihadists and all this other stuff, when in reality we incited we helped the Zionists spark this jihad between the Arab Spring by further not only taking land from the Palestinians, but taking land from Libya as well.
You are absolutely right, Brandon Council. I give you an A+. You get an A+ for tonight.
Yeah, man.
If you do want to, though, we can take a break here. We did have Cole. I know that was Cole's question. He was our first caller, but we do have another caller, and we can take a break if you like. You know, real quick, 4-minute break.
No, I'm good with the break, man. We can go right into the next caller if you like, man.
All right, but we'll do that.
But let's. I wanted to make sure. I wanted to see if maybe Ian or Mike would like to add to that because I know that they definitely hold similar interests in that.
Well,
yeah, Brandon. I just wanted to say something, maybe in regards to the question about Zionist and Freemasonry. That
go ahead.
Like there's Freemasons that basically I believe like Freemasons are mostly into the ancient mystery religions. So there are going to be Freemasons that are Zionists, but there's also going to be Freemasons that could be Christians. So, and then as far as like, who's pulling the strings, this and that, there's going to be fights, and for control of power amongst the different elite people, even amongst, themselves within these secret societies. So where my research has led me to believe, though, the number one threat right now, as we can see what's going on in Syria and all, and throughout the rest of the world, is the number one threat right now, in my opinion, is the Zionist movement. So I just wanted to
can we take
that in there.
Yeah, let's take this caller real quick because they've been on hold for a long time. I just want to give them a moment to say something, if they could.
All right, go for it.
All right. Yes, 803. Hello. Anybody?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
They must have set the phone down.
Yeah, it's just because we got we only got a 2-hour show, so I don't really want to cut the break, man. Next time we have a 3-hour show, dude.
You want to hear some music,
there,
Brandon. You want some Payday Monsanto right now.
Anybody out there actually who's listening, man, they can go to NWO. What is it, Dennis? NWOTruthRadio.com.
.org.com. You can find us on Facebook. We have the group. We have a page. Me, Dennis Ford, Brandon Council. We're out there. People know us.
Yeah, it definitely helped contribute so we can get a 3-hour show going. As I said, I definitely would like to get Mike's perspective on some of that as well because me and him were talking. I'm trying to get him to come on the show, and I'm like, man, just he's kind of filling in gaps for me, and I really appreciate somebody that makes me think, and in other words, definitely appreciate your opinion there, Mike. If you'd like to add anything to that.
Yeah, definitely. What I was thinking about when you were saying that was if you look at the migration of the Jewish people after they migrated up to, there was the Khazars. If people want to look that up, and I think this was really the springboard for what is going on today, because 80% of the Jewish people today came from the country where the Khazars were, and so 80% went up that way north. That's like lower Russia, southern Russia area around there, and 20% went west to North Africa, stuff like that. But if you really want to do research, you look into the Khazars, and from there they jumped to Europe, and in Europe they clung to the Christian people because I guess they felt they had some type of something in common if they shared the same God or whatever. But what happened was they always had from my perspective, they've always had a real low tolerance for other people. I mean, you could see it today with even the Hasidic Jews, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you look at the whole history of it, you can see something definitely is going on. And then, like we talked about with the Bolshevik Revolution, and like I said, it all starts from the Khazars. So people really want to look that up. And
you know what? It reminds me. You know what, Mike? It actually reminds me of what we were talking about last night because, like what you're saying, it seems so odd that, like, you know, then there's nothing wrong with it, but how they're so, like, closely knit. Excuse me again. But how they're so closely knit together, okay? And like we said before, you know, wealth is passed down through generation to generation. It almost seems as if one whole country or one whole land, area, territory of mass is literally trying to make sure not only that their breed, you know, that their particular persons live on throughout some sort of course of damage through history, but that they are the successors as well because they have the gold, the wealth, and everything else to back it up. You know what I mean? It's really...
The weird thing about it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before I forget about it, the weird thing is that, like I said, 80%, and some estimates, whatever, it's around that area. Second, third generation of these, I guess they interbred in this area that I'm talking about. And by second or third generation, these people felt like they were, I don't know if they didn't have a sense of their history, but they felt that they were totally either Jewish or whatever. You know, sometimes people get mixed up. Well, is Jewish a religion? Is it a nationality?
Right.
What is it? There's a bunch of things there. But I forgot what my point was. But after 3 generations of it, after 3 generations, 2-3 generations, these people really felt like they, like I said, I don't know if they didn't have a sense of history or whatever it was, but if you look back into the days of the Bible and the Hebrews and Moses and Abraham and all that, only about 20%, probably less, that call themselves Jews today are from that lineage. So if you want to bring the Zionist thing in, it's something that was either hijacked or manipulated or used to, you know, we know where it's going. It's going to consolidate the world, and you know, then you get into the Rothschilds, and you get into the money systems, and you get into they funded each side of the wars. You know, all the way back since Napoleon, and probably before that. You got Weishaupt that you know, started the Illuminati. They got infiltrated. He fell off the map, but I believe he still was doing something. And you know, and then you got
no, good point. Good point, Mike. I wanted to throw something out there. Why wouldn't we talk about Tesla? You know, because he wasn't the Illuminati. Right?
I don't know. I believe it's that because he was moving into like a free energy thing, and that's what goes into like the petro and all that. That's another enslavement right there, you know.
Right.
And so Tesla, and I think Brandon could probably speak better on this, but him and Edison went into a like some type of war. But Tesla's shit was actually better, and you know, and that goes to perception, though. That goes to perception, and then that goes into how they you know, they use the media and the commercials, and you know, and they're all owned by about 4 or 5, a handful of conglomerates, and then you know, you look at the music industry, you look at Hollywood. I mean, 80-95% they're Jewish. Like I said, I don't have nothing wrong with the Jewish people. I have a problem with Zionism. And if every Jew is with Zionism, then you know, I guess you could read between the lines. But you know, I just want to make that clear that there's nothing wrong with being Jewish. You know, there's converts.
Well, like I said, Yeah, real quick, we do have this caller, too. This is a good fan of ours, a good friend of mine. So I want to bring him in. He just let me know. So I'm going to bring him in. Hello,
all
Sean.
right.
Sean, you with us? Maybe.
Oh, I'm getting a lot of drop calls tonight, dude.
No, he was supposed to be with us, but that's fine. And exactly,
yeah, I'm sorry.
You know,
I'm sorry for jumping around, but I mean that's how you could see it
No,
connecting.
it's all right, dude.
You know what I mean? You could see the
right.
tentacles pushing out everywhere, and you know it's just it's really sad today. And me and Brandon got into dual citizenship. Dual citizenship isn't even legal. Okay, you got a lot of these Israelis getting dual citizenships in the U.S. And then you get into Bilderberg. You know, these top movers and shakers, whatever they want to call these people, but you know they set the agenda, and you know it's just there's just so much stuff. I really lost track, but there's just so much stuff to try to convey out to people what's really going on. And you know, why do you think there's a blackout on Bilderberg? Why do you think there's today they did the Benghazi thing? Okay, they had hearings about Benghazi. There was a whistleblower. Okay, CNN was carrying it. I heard they carried it until the testimony got kind of murky and it started to point to Hillary and other people. They cut off the feed and went to some bullshit, you know, some old rerun of something. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand where this is coming from. They own everything, and if it doesn't benefit them, it's not going to be shown. And so that's why this show like this, bringing the truth out, is what it's about. And I challenge everybody to do something. We all got to do something. So you know what I mean? It's just how it is.
That's very, very well said too. And you know, that's the thing. Challenge yourself. People will go out there and you know, look up these names. I'm actually going to provide a lot of things in the event page here pertaining to what we were talking about, so people have a chance to look up things. But you know, why can't people remember, you know, when Hillary Clinton was on C-SPAN and she had admitted that basically is what happened was they tried to infiltrate the Mujahideen because they needed basically ground coverage of insurgencies. You know, there's Russian insurgencies into Afghanistan, you know, in which they used our weapons to get into there. We sold them arms, and they used our arms to get into Afghanistan. And you know, this.
What about not to interrupt you, but what about the drug output of Afghanistan? Before we got there, they were about 20% of the market, you know, give or take a little bit. They're about 90% now. So who do you think the drug dealers are? You know what I'm saying? They had a CIA plane, I think, back in the 80s that fell off into the earth, had cocaine. You know, that's what you got. Fast and Furious with the guns. I mean, you've got all this going on, and if you know, you got the puppets in Congress. You know, there's only a few left. Today, I looked in the store. I saw Rand Paul on Times Magazine, and I'm like, damn, man, I hope this dude doesn't sell out. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a little glimmer of hope of hope there. You know, and if he falters to what's going on, then you know what time it is. It's just going to be the same thing again. So you know, it's just information is the key.
You know,
that's what it is.
I like the frequency that most of us work on because you know, it's crazy that you brought up the cocaine and the drug dealer thing because you know, basically what I wanted to add is by the late 1970s we had to sort control over that land in the Middle East that we didn't exactly have, and the Mujahideen had turned us down, and now we have you know, inflation. That inflation of gas prices is rising in the late 1970s, and it's our poppy our poppy, what we were getting for, heroin and stuff was decreasing severely because of the war that was going on between the Russian insurgencies and the Taliban, and how the Mujahideen had found out, well, hey, the U.S. is actually, now funding and backing the Taliban, and, we're not going to have that. Like, they want that resources for them. They didn't want those resources to be outsourced. And so that, during that late 1970, through 1978 to 1988, that's where you had the big, that's where the cocaine was able to come in. That's where Colombia was able to come in. Like you said, our deals with the Colombians, Fast and Furious to this day, shows the close relations of drug and gun running that we have with them. Most of what your lovely tax dollars, those who are taxpayers, what your lovely tax dollars are actually going for. The poppy thing, the way that we expedited to get our poppy back, adding to this problem of getting our poppy back, besides the Russian insurgency with the Taliban, they were, trying to basically hold their own land, in a result to keep their strongholds over Iraqi oil fields that were kind of like running through their land. You know what I mean? So, and these were occupied by U.S. forces, so we kind of gave them like protection of their poppy fields in regard of protection of our oil pipelines that were going through Iraq. Thus the Iraq invasion, Kuwait, in the Desert Storm in the early 1990s, the U.S. resulted in trying to impose insurgencies on Middle East targets by approaching people like the Mujahideen and the Iraq quote unquote the Iraq dictator, and with no deals, similar armings to the Russians withdrawing and disarming, and the Mujahideen turning us down. We needed some sort of jihad group, some sort of foreign militant group, and we look at militant groups as being terrorist groups or terrorist organizations. And, it's funny because we couldn't get involved with any of these groups straight out. We couldn't get any of them to completely turn for us, so we created our own, Al-Qaeda. That's why it says Al-Qaeda. That's why CIA is right in the middle of the fucking word.
Well, it's just like they, when we were fighting USSR, we supplied equipment to the Taliban and all those people, and then the funny thing is these people turn against us, or if you believe they turn against us, there obviously is a hand in all of it. Also, I wanted to bring up Gladio B. If people want to look up Gladio B, that's what's going on in the southern, the former USSR, the southern states around there. Gladio B was actually Gladio was something that I'm not too familiar with, but I've touched on Gladio B, and this kind of connects to what's going on in Boston. So there's a lot of things. I don't know enough to speak on it, but if you want to look that up, that's something to definitely look into. There's like a PDF out there of unclassified or declassified information. But now, like with Ian, right? That's Ian talking about Syria, and you get news articles about the U.S. wants to supply the rebels, and that it's just like creating the same it's the same they use the same techniques all the time. It's not even a joke. And I would respect them more if they just came out and said, listen, this is what we want to do, and if you're down with it, get down with it, and if not, then but that's not the way they want to do it. They hide behind the scenes, and and like I was breaking it down before, you might say, well, what's Lucifer or what's Satan got to do with this? These people worship, Satan has nothing to do without religion. It's you don't.
And
have
they
to
practice
believe in it.
witchcraft as well.
Yeah, and blood sacrifices. You know, Boston was a blood sacrifice. 9/11 was a blood sacrifice. You know,
right.
and you know, and then if you want to get into the music, you know, you see the blood sacrifices there, and you see the Black Boule. You know, you can look that up. And Quincy Jones, you want to look that dude up. I mean, these are all pedophile people, you know.
Right.
I don't want to get off course, but about what happened with Tupac, I think what happened is that he, if you remember, he started to get into movies like Juice, Poetic Justice, stuff like that. And Quincy Jones, I heard, wanted to like have a sexual nature with
he was dating,
and
Tupac was dating his daughter, Quincy Jones' daughter at the time. Yeah, and Tupac went public and said that Quincy Jones wanted to F him in the ass. Yeah.
Right.
No, fuck, man.
I don't want to get, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I don't want to go on that road either, but that's some real shit. That's why Tupac's dead,
you know,
because he spoke about it.
You got to ask questions. You know, why was this man killed? You know, I mean, you look at his pedigree. Okay, in the background, his family was Black Panthers, whatever. And what's interesting is that his aunt was brought up in the news recently. We're talking about back in 1970s, and now she's on an FBI list, and they're saying she's in. I don't know if they're saying it in the papers, but they're saying she's in Cuba. All right, so why don't you shut down Guantanamo and return this woman, and let's call it even. You know what I mean? If you really want her, why are you bringing up her FBI that happened in the 70s? You know what I mean? It's just all diversions. It's nothing really that is of any substantial anything. And as long as they keep you off on a different path and into materialistic things, and you know. And to fall into it, I mean, there's sigil magic in Disney.
Also, Mike.
I mean, it's just.
I want to throw this out there while I'm talking to you. Tupac also called out Dr. Dre and some other people.
Yeah. Right.
For being the same thing that we're talking about with these people in the music industry. That you know.
Yeah. The funny thing about that is that Dre called out Eazy-E. Okay, he said he sold out to Jerry Heller. Okay, he said he sold out to Jerry Heller. All right, but then if you look at Dr. Dre, and I won't stay on this, but if you look at him, he sold out. All right, so then if you look at everything else that's affiliated with him, just like everything else that's affiliated with Jay-Z. They had a interview with him, Angie Martinez on 97. If you want to look that up. And she asked,
I know what you're talking about.
What's going on? I'm hearing.
He's laughing about the Illuminati like we're all stupid. Yeah.
And you could hear her like she really didn't want to bring it up. She kind of did like a little joke thing about it, but I guess it was maybe something behind the scenes that just he wanted to get out there. And he, you know, it's just come on, man.
We already
know. A
dude
with that Wilt shirt. I mean, Aleister Crowley.
Hey, that sweatshirt cost $600. You can't buy that that hoodie that Jay-Z had on. I call him Joe Camel, because that's what he is. Joe Camel fraud,
but
man.
That's the infiltration, and you know these people sell out for.
Yeah, but he's the best. I mean, look at him. He's working with the president. You know, he's getting.
Oh yeah, well the funny thing is,
vacations.
He went to Cuba.
Oh,
he went to Cuba, and then he
saw
a song.
Tupac. He met Tupac in Cuba because the president said so. You know.
Well, if you look at the backmasking of music, actually Crowley made that.
Crowley, yeah.
And if you look into the Beatles,
the Sgt. Pepper's album has Aleister Crowley on it.
And supposedly Crowley was Sgt. Pepper's, and he gave them this backmasking thing. And there's a lot of other shit that I really don't want to get into.
Yeah, and they remixed the Beatles' White album with Jay-Z's Black album, and that was Danger Mouse.
Danger Mouse? Yeah,
yep.
Exactly. But if you do it with even Barack Obama's chant what was that chant that they were doing in 2008? Yes, we can. Just reverse that shit. Go on YouTube and listen to it. You know, people will say, oh, well, it's doctored or whatever. But, you know, this is the subliminal shit that's going on that you don't even understand. I even saw a thing that if you go into a building that's not, you know, that has an evil presence, that you can be, like, almost inoculated with this shit. I mean,
yeah, that's the Masonic lodges.
We're hit on so many levels.
Yeah, I live in Virginia.
Like I see in Las Vegas, shit like that. You know, so deep. And like I said, Disney, you know, they got the sigil magic where they'll put a naked woman, or they'll put a penis, and then they'll mask it in. It's all on a subconscious level.
Yeah, Walt Disney was a 33rd degree Freemason.
Yeah, and if you even look at that, I was talking to Brandon about this. If you even look at Rihanna's video, that Umbrella song, it's a split second, but if you look at it, she makes like a Baphomet thing with her, and it's not structurally possible.
It's in a pyramid, though. I know what you're talking about, yeah.
It's not structurally possible. They altered it, so it was meant to be there. And then you got the checkerboard, you know, and you can go on and on and on. But, you know, it's just really...
yeah, let me ask you, Mike. You know, when these kids go to these concerts, you know, they're seeing this on stage. I mean, you got people drinking blood and all this crazy dancing and demonic energy going on. So what do you think these kids are getting in their minds, you know? They, like I said, a lot of American people worship certain celebrities, so especially the children.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to idols. I mean, this was told thousands of years ago. You know, don't follow false idols. And this is what it is. This is the modern day false idol.
So this is why they make millions of dollars, right? Because they're lying to us, right?
Eventually, you can't. Well, like Griff said, you can't get in the 20+ million range, 20+ or more, without getting
blood
down
sacrifice
with it. Yeah, well, you know, they said Jennifer Hudson, and then, you know, Aaliyah and all of that, and it's sickening. And
that's really makes me think.
But if you're on that Forbes list, and it's not just hip hop, it's just in general. If you're on that Forbes list, then you really got to start looking at these people, and also you got to start thinking about think about what you're eating, and like, you know, these guys say Monsanto and everything. It's true. You know, stop supporting these imperialistic companies that really don't give a damn about you. Brandon was telling me that Monsanto made Agent Orange, or they had something to do with that. So now they're making your food. Now they're making your food. So what do you think's going on? And then you know, you guys bought up the cafeteria too. They don't even want to eat their own stuff. So I mean, just look into, get past the media, the TV. You know, start looking while you still can. Because you know what? I mean, it's probably not going to be here forever, this internet. And like I said, they're going to do attacks, and it's just going to get, you know, like, for instance, I used to have a bunch of CDs on a rack here. I got rid of all my CDs. I put a bunch of books now. You know, I don't care what people think, but you know what? I'm getting knowledge within myself. That's just a reflection of what I am today. You know, I put them false idols away and said, listen, you know what? I had a whole spiritual awakening. I had the whole awakening, like, you know, I really don't want to get into myself, but that's really how it was. And, you know, we all woke up on 9/11 to a certain extent, but I didn't start really digging until about 2 years ago. So it's a progression that you got to take, and, you know, if you
you're
care
an
about
artist.
Sure.
You know, we talked about that as well. You're an artist. I mean, I do artwork, but I dabble in the music, I guess. But I want to showcase people that do music and artwork and all that stuff.
Yeah, well,
and I appreciate everything you do, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys, you know what I mean? But, you know, certain people, I think I was talking to Brandon or you, Dennis, certain people can reach other people, you know, how we articulate maybe might not catch someone's ear, but someone on somebody else's level can catch that, and then that's how you do it. And it's not about a cult. We want to expose the truth. We're here to try to educate people. When I hear I'm not making money out of this, I'm doing this because I feel it's part of possibly a duty of mine. I really don't know. Brandon and me had a conversation last night, and that's what this show is about. And that's why, you got Dennis, Brandon, these guys have made something that, for a lot of us, we don't have that outlet. So this is what it is. And like I said, it's the alternative to the alternative media. Because they're infiltrating the alternative. It is.
It's controlled opposition at its finest. It really is. I appreciate that, too, because that's really something that we really want to do is really set ourselves apart, from all this type of stuff. And we want people to recognize what history, what type of history has really taken place throughout the years. If you can recognize this type of history and almost recognize, certain things are not as they seem, you can do so much for not maybe yourself, but maybe your future, your kids or your kids' kids, and that's the main point, to be able to do this so that they don't have to do it, you know what I mean? And, like I was saying with, with our government going rogue, basically, and just kind of indulging themselves in foreign affairs to the, up to the neck in foreign affairs to the point where they're creating false foreign militias to deal with, certain types of insurgencies in other countries. Like, when did we, not only did we become the world police, but we're also the world's drug dealer. We're also the world's, number one arms carrier. We sold over 80% of our nuclear stockpile. In 1999, Bill Clinton ended the thing with the Taliban by giving them, it was like $9.8 billion on to stop the opiate trade with the U.S. 10 years later, opiate addiction is at its highest, and it's these 10-year cycles that it's really bugging me out. People, it's like get a grip, man. Like if you are out there listening right now and you are on the fence or skeptical about what's going on, like, hey man, go to C-SPAN, type in Hillary Clinton admits to Al Qaeda, how they basically it's a really great I couldn't believe what I was watching when it came on, and she was talking about how they could not infiltrate other groups, so the only thing that they could do in order to occupy that part of the Middle East was to create their own terrorist cell. And it's actually, and this alleged terrorist cell is the ones who killed 4,000 Americans on American soil. You know what I mean? That's not how it works. Plus, like I said, the World's Tribunal Court just doesn't sit down in any land. Japan offered the evidence up, and they went there, and it's up to the people of those states. I mean, there's so many other people that have been convicted through the World's Tribunal Court. I mean, I'm not even talking about like Nazi Germany. I'm talking about like throughout the last 30, 20 years. And, especially like in Honduras, South America, and the Americans, we see to it that they pay that price when it's the people of that country who need to act on it, just like we need to act on the evidence that is already there. Okay, so basically they've already tried and they've tried him and found him guilty, convicted him of genocide. And George Bush and his regime found him guilty of war crimes and genocide. So I don't know how many people can keep on going with this red-blue paradigm, but it's so off-putting. We really need to look at not only the facts, but we need to look at what is scientifically possible and what the capabilities that we are lacking. I think Mike and I think we were talking about this, and Dennis, we talk about this too sometimes. The reptilian thing.
Right.
Everybody
right.
gets
We do.
I
brought this up the other night. I wanted to throw this out there, but if you talk about like the blue bloods or the elites, you know, blue is related to cold-blooded. You know, blue. When you look at the color blue, you associate it with being cold. So, you know, these are the elite bloodlines. This is why they call them the blue bloods. Plus, there's some kind of reptilian inbreeding going on because, you know, you get George W. Bush Jr. and this dude. He looks like the Queen. You know, the Queen is a reptile.
His brother,
Bush's
brother, might run. So, do you guys want another Bush? You guys want another, or hopefully today, really dismantled Hillary Clinton's 2016 bid. But you know, either way, whoever's in there, Democrat, Republican, you know, it doesn't matter. And you know, I think what Dennis was saying about the reptilians, and you know, that might be far-fetched, far out, but you know, I think David Icke has did a lot of work on that. And if you look at when he was on, I think me and Brandon talked about it. I think if you look when he went on to when Jesse Ventura had him on his show Conspiracy Theory. Okay, did you see how it was how he bashed him? Like he actually, it was like ambush journalism.
Jesse, you're bloody insane. Go to my lecture. You know, he flipped out.
But actually, it made me think that this dude is actually more credible because if you think about it, okay, Jesse Ventura, Conspiracy Theory, it's on a mainstream media. Okay, the first 2 years,
True TV,
was okay.
True TV, speak about it. That's Ted Turner.
Right.
Another Zionist controlled Tribune media station.
How about in the first Gulf War? How about when CNN, look it up on YouTube, when they faked a report and there was like bells or something that went off, they putting helmets on, and so that's just another arm of the establishment.
Yeah.
Media, it's tentacles.
The media giant. Yeah.
And so back to the Queen, like you said, there was this report that when she went to Canada and there was this Indian tribe or something, and she took, or whoever she had working for her, took like a couple kids. And because, you know, the Queen's related to, you know, they kind of run Canada too. And, you know, initially they kind of, you know, and what happened was in the U.S. with King George back then, if people didn't step up, you know, imagine what it would be. And also, there was only probably less than 10% that actually revolted against this problem. A couple dudes were probably sipping lemonade on the hill watching these people, you know what I mean? And they didn't know, or they didn't care to know or to actually step up and do something. So the Founding Fathers, you know, put in place something that's foolproof, and, you know, they set up the government the way it is, and you can see how it's being shredded. And
every day.
It's not only Obama. I mean, it went back before with Bush, with the whatever that thing that he passed after 9/11.
Bush and his father and his grandfather.
The Patriot Act you're talking about?
I mean, look at your... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then, you know, I was
Dennis is right, too. Real quick, Dennis is right, too, man. You got to look at his father. What is Grenadine and Prescott Bush and all the other people, too.
Yeah.
But,
right.
Go ahead, Mike.
Prescott Bush was, he helped fund the Nazis.
Yeah,
so,
he was a Nazi sympathizer. Nazi
right.
And Bush Senior was the head of the CIA or something too, right?
Right, and then Bush came through. Well, if you really want to, I don't know if this can be verified, but it is said that Aleister Crowley, had a love child with this woman, and that's who Barbara Bush is today. So if you really want to dig even deeper,
right,
he's related to Crowley, you know?
And that explains the Skull and Bones at Yale University.
Yeah, it is true.
The CIA and the Nazis all being intertwined with the Bush tree.
And
yeah, you're right.
It's amazing because, well, what you were saying, Mike, I want to forget real quick, but like you were saying how he was a Nazi sympathizer and stuff like that. He made the business plot of 1933. I'm going to post something about it right now, but basically the bombing of German Parliament. It was also it was an alleged political conspiracy in 1933, wherein wealthy businessmen and corporations plotted a coup d'état at coup de grace overthrow United States President Franklin D. Roosevelt. In 1934, the business plot was publicly revealed by retired Marine Corps Major General Smedley Butler, testifying that McCormick Dixon, Congressman Committee, in his testimony, he claimed that a group of men had approached him as a part of a plot to overthrow Roosevelt in a military coup. One of the alleged plotters denied the plot, and basically is what it came down to was Bush, because they couldn't effectively get enactment plots and coups to happen within the American government. They funded it through the German government. You gotta understand, by in 1933, Hitler is in political power at that point in time. Like Barack Obama in Chicago type thing.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And if you look at all the presidents, how somehow they're all related somehow, besides a handful, a couple of them. And then if you want to go back to the first Bush, okay, when he was in the CIA in the 80s, all right, his son was being under investigation about this cult, and you can look this up. It was in Texas, okay. Bush, the first Bush president, started leaning on the investigators, and he got it either called off or whatever. The second Bush president could not say where he was. He could not be accounted for. And this came up when he ran for president in 2000, and he refused to answer the question. And so if you don't believe that they're doing these cult rituals, I mean, it's real. And they're doing it to you also.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. You brought up a good point, Mike. If they're interbreeding, that's one thing. But when Barack Obama is related to Bush, and when everybody's like ninth cousins, we got a problem. And this goes back way back.
That's a real good point, because you know what? They are all related, because they all come from a bloodline. And they are. They all from one bloodline. And the thing is that the bloodline is very selectable. In other words, like they say, it's so funny, man. You can run for president one day. Do you have a birth certificate and a social security number? No, then you cannot. The reason why, it's not just Obama that had a problem with his birth certificate and social security number. Reagan also had a problem providing one. And, all of these presidents had problems providing one. Why? Because no elite family in their right mind is going to allow their child to be a product of the state. Every time you register, your car or your child, birth certificate is a certificate of registration. It is a ward of the state, just property of the state. You want that property to be yours and only yours.
Good point.
That was wild. You just said. Can you say that again? Not about the property, about the bloodline and that just blew my mind. They would not be a part of this society and subject their children. So a lot of them, if what you're saying is right, which I will have to look into that because, man, that's crazy.
I got it all.
We know about Obama, but if there was previous presidents,
Dick Cheney, Dick Cheney and Obama, they're like, eighth cousins, and people are, eighth cousins, whatever. Dude, they're all from the same fucking family. It doesn't matter if you're eighth cousins or third cousins, you're still from the same bloodline.
Right.
And that's the thing. That's why I try to say that, we never won the Revolutionary War. We never broke away from the crown. All wars are bought and paid for before 1 ounce of blood is even shed. And, the thing about it is, and that's another thing, is you got to understand, these people, that have these bloodlines, it's so secure to the point of the fact where I believe that, if one of these people are to be incapacitated in one way or the other, even incapacitated in death, to the point of death, that if they are to be elected president, say, in 2000, that they're going to get that presidency. Okay, it's going to happen, whether they are or not. And, I believe that has to do with more of a genetic binary type of cloning, because I believe we are probably, I think stem cell research was something that happened in the 1900s. So, it's all of them, are definitely related. And you know what? Actually, I'd like to send you something. There's this. I have a chart. I have a chart that demonstrates how each and every single president is related.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But this all, just to add, this really all goes back to Egypt, and the queen is actually this is of that lineage. But at the same time, they are Jewish too, and so there obviously is a commingling of I don't know if they took the ideology of the pharaohs and and they have perpetrated it today. But the queen is of Jewish descent in some way or another. So,
just like Hitler was. even though he was a pawn, even though he was a patsy, just like fucking Obama was. It is.
But if you think about it, right? If it's disputed about how many Jews died in the Holocaust. But if they sold out their own people, okay, to get something through, or to get an agenda set, or to do something, do you think they really care about? That's why they say it's an illusion when you vote. Do you think they really care, or do you think that it really matters that you vote? There was even topics about these guys owning the voting machines, and that it could not be verified if you wanted to go back and look about how many votes this person got in this precinct or whatever. And so it runs deep.
Yeah, Dennis, man. I remember Dennis, you're telling me, man, I got home, I voted, I got home. I said, fuck that shit, I'm never voting again.
Yeah. The only time I voted, I got lied to.
Political experience.
I mean, listen, if there's someone good out there, and you feel that that's your duty, I don't have nothing wrong with that.
No, I never voted. I never voted in my life, and I voted for.
Then
I wrote.
Then he
was I went out and
person.
voted for somebody, and I got lied to by the mainstream media, and ever since then, I said, I'm not voting because I don't believe our votes matter.
We all did. We
it's
all
a bloodline. Like we're just talking about. It's a bloodline.
Yeah, the bloodline. They gotta be selected.
Yeah, it's already been. This has already been planned out. This is why they meet at the Bohemian Grove and Bilderberg and everything else.
I'm glad you brought that up, man. Yeah, I was trying to tell my friend about it. I just showed him pictures. I showed him the image on the dollar, up in the right corner, that there's an owl up there in the crescent, the left crescent. Okay.
Right.
I showed him a picture of Bohemian Grove, and the cremation of care, and you can look all that up. And then in Washington, however they manipulated the plants or whatever, it's an owl. If you look on the top of it, I don't know exactly where it is in Washington, but if you get the pictures, you can see that the way they manipulated the shrubs and stuff, they made it look like an owl. So I mean, right there, if that doesn't,
well, let me throw something out there.
Your head.
Yeah, let me throw something out there.
Yeah,
There's a reason why.
We got to wrap this up. So Dennis, definitely go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a reason why they design all dollar bills except the dollar bill. You get a new $5 all the way to $100 bill. You get it redesigned every few years or whatever. The dollar bill never changes, and there's a reason for that, because the dollar bill holds all these ancient Masonic things.
I never thought of that.
If you turn your dollar bill over on the back, you get the all seeing eye looking at you, and their bird and the 13 over and over again, all this stuff.
Right.
When the Illuminati, I call them the Illuminati, but when they were founded, it was 1776, and that's on the back of it. And they just had a birthday at the beginning of this month, and I forgot about it because
Well, it's a good thing I was only 2 years off. So, what did you say?
But still,
what did you say? 1776 or 1777?
Something like that. I don't know what it was.
Somewhere there. But,
But that's very interesting, and that's these are things that I like I said, it's not. It's just we need to ease people into these type of topics, and I'm so glad that we were able to do that tonight, and I can't wait for a 3-hour show, and I think we should continue this show too, maybe Saturday or Sunday, sometime this weekend, because there are a lot of other things that we definitely should cover, and Ian and Mike and Anthony, you guys contribute a lot, and Mike.
The only person we got with us is Anthony. We got Anthony with us, but everybody else, they dropped out.
Yep. Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I got a few of those messages there, but yeah, I wanted to thank everybody, and Mike especially, man. It's really weird. Like I said, man, some of our conversations, we definitely have shared. Our past conversations we've shared with our listeners tonight, which I think is great, because there's so many thoughts and different pieces of the puzzle that come back together when I speak with you, that it's an experience. It's really great. It's awesome, man. It's good, and I'm glad to have met you. I'm glad to know you. I'm glad that you're with us on this show. And I hope that you actually, maybe can join us or become more frequent, with these type of topics, and with me on these late night shows, as I would like to air a few more.
Yes, and thank you to Mike for joining us. A lot of that stuff was incredible. We'll have to download this. We'll have to download this episode and listen later.
To YouTube, yeah. And again, we need everybody to understand, and we're going to go over this, and we'll reiterate it a million times over. There's a difference between Jewish and the Zionist movement, and we will exploit the differences very vigorously throughout these conversations that we have. Something that no other media outlet will touch, because of the fact that they are, run by these type of people, and what we are funded by the person who wants to receive this information. And the thing is, that's another thing that sets us apart, is not only do we offer the information, we offer the solutions as well. The self-governing is the number one solution to all of this, to be able to be responsible for your own actions.
True. And thank you, Brandon, for everything you do. And this network wouldn't be what it is without people like Brandon Council and me and Brian Plain and a bunch of other people. So, yeah.
Yeah, Brian Plain, big shout out. Much love, brother.
You know, we have to work together.
But yeah, dude, I know you wanted to do. You know, you can even go if you know you can even go over to you know 15 after if you wanted to, Dennis, because I know I told you I'd give you you know have at least 10, 15 minutes here. You play 3 songs if you want, dude. End it out with that. But again, I'd like to thank Mike, everybody else who joined us, Cole. You know, Dennis for running the studio, Anthony and Ian for hanging out. Mike, you definitely have to come and hang out with me again. We got to make a show for this weekend, so get in touch with me as soon as possible. Thanks everybody for checking out this show and staying with us while you were sleeping. Should air this weekend, so keep a lookout for that. Also, check out It's My Opinion. Check out my wall, my page, Brandon Council on Facebook, and NWOTruthRadio.com.org. Whatever, you get on that internet, you look us up. You can also Google us, NWO Truth Radio, and a bunch of our shows will come up if you're unfamiliar with any of our prior work. So thanks again, Dennis. I really appreciate it, man, and look forward to hearing a couple beats on the way out, bro.
Yep, no doubt. And like I said, thank you, Brandon, and NWO Truth Radio. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And tonight I had a lot of fun tonight. So yeah, we'll continue it. We'll continue to keep doing what we're doing. And thanks to everybody. And
excellent.
Yep.
Excellent.
I got some tunes.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Yep.
You get all freaked out and you start waving the "I have my rights. I'm an American. I don't care what you are. And I'm a new world order soldier. Okay? And you are under martial law."
Tell them, money. I just supply what you need now. Call me Rockefeller, Oppenheimer, Vanderbilt, Carnegie now. What your thugs made, that's just a lazy penny. My family run the drug trade since the 18th century. And we own the penitentiaries too, to penalize you for the narcotics we've been selling to you. Ain't it great how we straight commandeered your state? A FEMA train is coming to your station, don't be late. You'll have your designated bracelet color coded. To your respective zones upon the train you will be loaded. First trip is for the able-bodied workers. And what's the oligarchy if there's no one there to serve us? So sad you're ruled by the few now. But they released the bird flu from the CDC zoo now. We built camps to hold over 3.2 now. 1 million FEMA coffins. What you think we about to do now? Please don't resist us. Don't make it harder than it has to be. Please don't do that. We're gonna take you to your safety. There's been a national emergency.
We must quarantine all the civilians infected. Our server in the sky helped us easily detect it. The Pentagon got all your medical records. Thanks to MI6, the people who direct it. I know you think your sovereignty's grand, but there's a Royal Institute right on your property, man. Except they couldn't call it that back in the 20s. Americans were smart, they would have thought something was funny. Now the oligarchy can do what they choose. They own your bank, your education, military, and news. They do drop a few insignificant clues while they focus in on scandals and the latest hairdos. But they know you're not an initiate. They can stick it right in your face, you're not getting it. The symbology should bemoan you. Illuminati corporations worship Satan and they own you.
Please don't resist us. Don't make it harder than it has to be. Just do the right thing. We're gonna take you to your safety. There's been a national emergency.
Just not even the other day.
But he left one final warning.
1984 is, I believe, a quite terrifying masterpiece. So terrifying, in fact, I don't think I should like to read another like it.
I am not absolutely dissatisfied with it. I think it is a good idea, but the execution would have been better if I had not been under the influence of TB when I wrote it.
You once claimed that you have an ability to face unpleasant facts. Is that what you've demonstrated in 1984 by drawing an accurate portrait of the future?
I think that allowing for the book being, after all, a parody, something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
Doing 95 on the highway. You can see the big wheels turning. The first day of summer on a Friday. Look at all the kush we're burning. Police are briefly eyeing, but they don't ever think about chasing. They will never throw on a siren, 'cause everybody knows I'm a Mason. You don't wanna be trying to hinder me in any way. Well, I'm a fire. Any fool can see not to fuck with me, 'cause I don't play. I set the Middle East on fire.
Greetings. I'm so glad that you attended. I hope you can stay for the remainder. It's extended, immense but condensed for your listening pleasure. I had a whole lot of material to cram together. Endeavors like this traditionally take years to manifest. Oppenheimer and De Beers can attest. Whack rappers and actors use makeup to fool ya. I'm way fucking cooler with Jacob the jeweler. You are the buyer, I'm the supplier of rings and things that set cities on fire. I got my fingers in pies of all flavors, employing guys people despise and call traders. They get hit with the tomatoes. The world's a stage, but you don't get to see the writers or creators. Not to mention the producers or directors. War's a theater, your leaders are all actors.
You don't wanna be trying to hinder me in any way. Well, I'm a fire. Any fool can see not to fuck with me, 'cause I don't play. I set the Middle East on fire. Missiles with relish. I set the Middle East on fire.
It's been an arduous task the past few weeks. December 19th, 2012, as I speak, I gotta give a heartfelt thanks to my peeps. Detractors of fantasies manufactured for the sheep. Chosen people wanna lock you down in Gaza and strip you. If a warhead hits you, it's considered a mitzvah. They gave you your Krishna and your Christmas. The Federal Reserve, Goyim, that's what your gift is. This is not to be debated by retarded gestures or expert professors over at Harvard. Indigents intellectually lack a scintilla of tact to rationalize an attack on a flotilla. Occupy banksters, get rebellious, but stay back from APAC or your career will do a Elvis. Israelis, and they're fickle and up to something hellish, hence the hellfire and maverick missiles with relish.
Don't wanna be trying to hinder me in any way. Well, I'm a fire. Any fool can see not to fuck with me, 'cause I don't play. I set the Middle East on fire. Time is close to hand, and we will give them the bomb missiles with relish.
We declare openly, Arabs have no right to settle on 1 centimeter of Eretz Israel. force is all they'll ever understand. We shall use ultimate force to expand our land. The Palestinians are walking beasts. We must do everything we can to drive them from the east and rid the whole population using assassination, terror, land confiscation, and intimidation. Fuck a manufactured Holocaust. Chief rabbis are urging the IDF to bomb a mosque. Jews are in control. America we own. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon.
Going 95 on the highway. You can see the big wheels turning. The first day of summer on a Friday. Look at all the kush we're burning. Police are briefly eyeing, but they don't ever think about chasing. They won't ever throw on a siren, 'cause everybody knows I'm a Mason.
Once you had the freedom to object, to think and speak as you saw fit, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and suggesting your submission. We need cameras. How did this happen? Who's to blame? Well, certainly there are those who are more responsible than others. They will be held accountable. But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror.
Let me preface whatever's going to happen in the future with the fact I'm not your typical cat rapping to shoot you. Anything given certificate is under ownership. Once you know the true predicament, you got a phone to pick. Citizens had to be pledged as collateral chattel before the monarch could start the international battle. They tricked your parents into a human monopoly. That's why they registered you as biological property. When Britain hatched the plan to snatch the land, they gave you a legal fiction. Now that's the jam you find yourself stuck in. You're such a cool victim, indoctrinated in Rockefeller's public school system. Your presidents work directly for the crown. Truly, I did my due diligence because it's my dedicated duty. Fuck bureaucrats trying to fool me. The Commonwealth is dying to rule me. All I can tell them is welcome for time to fool me. Thank you so much for coming. You could be free again. Oh, that would be grand. Only if you would see, my friend. First you must understand, they pathologically pretend. Hoping to get you on the ship, let them persuade you to agree with them. That's it, man, it'll never cease to end. Perpetual conflict, free again. Indeed, you could take the shackles off, but have you ever really been? According to maritime admiralty law, you never will be free, my friend. If you fail to reclaim your tax money they freely spend on wars that never seem to end. United States is not a country, but a corporation contractually created by the Constitution. Let there be no debate. Your founding fathers intended you be a citizen of your respective states, not a citizen of the U.S. domiciled in Washington, D.C. Oh yes. Prior to 1921, upon arrival, the birth of babies was recorded in the family Bible. But after the Great Depression, people really lost their noodles, so they signed a document that simply squandered all their scruples, joining the ranks of former slave children, becoming a 14th Amendment citizen. The Social Security Act, written by actors, manufactured to make it look like a beautiful package. Too bad you never heard the news. The Social Security Act equals voluntary servitude. Notice the deceptive language. You bow to tyranny again. And voluntarily, my friend, 14th Amendment citizen, you better learn to speak to them if you want to be free again. The President of the United States don't answer to the Queen. He answers to some shadowy cat that you never seen. Frank Van der Cliff wrote about it in the Evening Post. Now the creature from Jekyll Island is robbing you blind while he's smiling at you cause he's just a ghost. To get a job in America, you need an SSN. To go to work in Canada, you need a card people call a SIN. They've changed the names, but it's all the same no matter where you've been. They declared an emergency in 1933, and it certainly speaks to the state you're in. I got a son that I cannot call a kid. If I have my way, I'ma get him off the grid. I got a beautiful girl named Sophie on the way,
And if they try to stick a little chip in my children, forget the gazillion. They really gonna have to pay. Really gonna have to pay.
You have no fear anymore. You're completely free.
South Tower, moron. Explosions. What are you, stupid?
Captain Smith over there. You're just the man I was looking for. What can I do for you?
My mic's so hot. My mic's so hot.
Big brother is watching you.
There is no way of knowing when the thought police might plug in on your wire.
This mic device is nice. 65% titanium,
True plus 2,
45% plutonium
equals 5.
My mic's so hot, my fingers burn.
Even if I never put the pen to paper?
Every time I go to grip a bayonet, taking my respect, baby, they will learn.
I have committed thought crime.
I can't lie, it's no big deal.
And for that, they're bound to get you.
It's just in my nature to take you to places and give you funky flavors you can feel.
Sooner or later, but they'll get you.
They wanna interfere with my flow.
You simply disappear.
Cause they know what's gonna happen. I get my plan in action. I make the population psycho.
Always during the night.
Let the thought criminals be heard.
You were abolished, annihilated, vaporized.
See, I'm committing a crime by just spitting these rhymes and reading betwixt the lines they blur.
Your name removed from the register.
Thought crime. I get it all of the time. I told my mom, she said, relax, it's all in your mind. And mom's is right 99% of the time. But this time, my word is superb and sublime. Thought crime. I get it all of the time. I told my mom, she said, relax, son, it's all in your mind. And mom's right 99.9% of the time. But this time, my word's superb and sublime.
Ouch! Even the names of the four ministries exhibit an impotence in their deliberate reversal of the facts. The Ministry of Peace concerns itself with war. The Ministry of Truth with lies. The Ministry of Love with torture. The Ministry of Plenty with starvation. These contradictions are not accidental. They are deliberate exercises in double think.
I'ma have to strictly speak about the things I know to be truths, opposed to what you saw on the news. The map they give you is designed to get you lost and confused without a clue as to what's going on. You a frog in the pot, and the water's getting warm. You better jump like crisscross before you get boiled, sauteed, broiled, pureed, turn into fish sauce. Big brother, watch ya with enhanced binoculars, sneak and peek. It's all standard like Sinatra. War is well rehearsed like the opera. Behind the scenes footage, take 4. I gotcha. Locked in the Orwellian state with your celly and mate, trying to get some jelly from grapes. Cause they've erased the taste of the wine from your mind's memory and replaced it with swine energy. I got news for y'all. The world is round, and 2 + 2 = 4. Thought crime. I get it all of the time.